All right, it is January 28th, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Underground Utilities Mapping Project team, and the schedule as previously published. We're going to try to move things along as quickly as we can to ensure our vendor presentation, we can do what we can do to help them out with maybe a little bit more time, but we'll see how we do here. Here's the agenda. Does anybody have any deletions, additions, things you want to do differently? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, the agenda is approved, which puts Barb on the floor. Here we go. One more thing before we get going. If you're not talking, please make sure you're on mute. We had our past recording kind of ended up a little funky as a result of background noise that was getting picked up. So anyway, Barb, please.
Yeah, welcome to the meeting, everybody. Today, the end of January, I feel we've made great progress since we kicked off back in August. And today, as you can see from the agenda, we've got a full slate of a vendor, a guest presenter, and then updates from all the committees. So let's just get at it, as they say.
Okay. What I've got for you is your administrative pack mule. I want to touch on kind of 5 different things. First one is, so you're aware of it, the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council, which is a legally enacted entity under Minnesota state statute, has set their 2021 priorities. And I thought you'd find of interest that this effort rated into the top 5 for 2021. And that determination will actually be sent to all the legislators in the state by the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council. So we've got kind of an inroad there to get some initial, what do I want to say, visibility on folks. Ultimately, they may be needed to help us out. Then the second thing I wanted to touch on is last time we were together, we worked through on the screen assignment to the various small work groups, and the methodology I will be using going forward to track that is something you'll be able to find by, on the underground utilities page at the mgacepc.net. If you click under that membership thing where it says view, what you will see pop up in there is, as it has been for a while, a spreadsheet that will show detailed contact information, which I've cut out of the middle here since this is recorded, for everybody in your group. And then the 2 columns that have been added now, tracking through that contact list, will be the group assignments in that red box there towards the end of that spreadsheet. And then whether or not, if you got a UUMPT there, that lets you figure out, or your group leader figure out, whether or not you've actually registered for an account, which gives you full access to everything on the UUMPT page. And again, as we start actually producing documentation, that's going to be an important thing for you to be able to share documents in a dedicated folder that everybody on your team has access to, and it's in one simple place. The follow through on that is, if you want to figure out how to create a EPC account, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. The reality is, if you want to learn how to do it, go to the MGAC EPC YouTube, find the video from our last meeting, and look for the section that runs from 52 seconds into 2 minutes and 12 seconds, and it walks you right through the procedures of what you need to do to create an account. Again, you can find the linkage. All you have to do is type into Google what I've got up here in this upper line, and it will pop you onto our YouTube channel, and you'll find a lot of the stuff related to this committee runs there. The next thing I wanted to point out is, once you got an account up and running, the with all of the committee work I've done over the past decade, the problem that people run into when they're trying to access a folder 99% of the time is that they're not logged into the appropriate account when they're trying to get to the documents. So what I've shown here on this page is you want to make sure in the upper right-hand corner that whatever Gmail, or I should say Google account address you've submitted to me. And so if I attempt to go over to look at documents that are hosted on the MGAC EPC net, and I am not logged in as chair MGAC EPC, I can't get to my documents. But if I'm logged in like it shows here, good enough, I'm good to go. But if I'm trying to use my Share Geo account or logged into my Share Geo account and try to access stuff for the committee, it's not going to work. So if you have trouble accessing a file or a folder, that's the trick to make sure that you can get into it. And the last thing I got for you is future schedule for the large group meetings. February 25th will be our next event, and followed by March 25th, April 29th, and May 27th. So the yellow highlighting shows the large group meeting, and the unhighlighted part there, if you'd like to stop by 6 days earlier at 10 o'clock on Friday, the week before, lo and behold, you can drop in on the leadership meeting. So all of that stuff's open for anybody that'd like to attend it. We've got, as far as our next event, Brad Anderson, City of Moorhead, is going to be talking about some of the issues they run into at the municipal level. And then down there across the bottom, the leadership team will be commiserating about some other potential opportunities that we have, to include some new technology issues like AR or 3D. And as Barb mentioned earlier today, a potential presentation from the folks at Black Hills Power. So we'll, the leadership team will figure it out and build out a better schedule. But again, I just wanted you to know what the upcoming dates look like for the future. And I think with that, I think we are over to Travis. You are up. We originally allotted 10-minute blocks. Please try to keep it moving along with your presentation. Thank you.
All right. I don't have much, but what Group 1 is doing, sorry, we haven't met for a couple months, but simply because we're trying to get over a couple hurdles. We've all been busy too, but the things that we're working obviously is to get more speakers on board to talk to the overall group monthly. I got a couple others I'm going to be lining up here to give us solutions to mainly to get our locate data directly into Collector or some other Esri program. I got Kieran kind of that has one called TerraFlow that's going to be lined up to do probably the next presentation. And then there's a couple others on board. So it's just reaching out to speakers, get some other solutions out there, some other tools that are available in the marketplace so that people are aware what they can use. And then, you know, I've been working on the other thing, the utilities data model for Esri, trying to get the attributes out of that so we can build somewhat or get an idea of what the data dictionary that they're offering has to offer, and then pull from that what's important for the locating side of things and also for the mapping group. And Brad has been helping me with that with Group 2. And we're going to continue to work on that and try to come up with some kind of base standards. It may be only a location and depth reading, I don't know, but we're going to come up with some standards as a group and try to just push that out as an offering, you know, for people that are getting into it for the first time. So. Sorry, is that short enough for you there, Steve?
Yeah, that's sweet and short. Thanks. All right, appreciate it, Travis. Keep plugging. We love it. Brad, are you with us, sir?
You bet, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll pop up your slide, and the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, this is, we met last week. I wanted to start mapping this out, and Bob Vasquez and I kind of toyed this around back and forth, and we met as a large group think last Thursday. And, we kind of approached from a project planning approach with our assets. This is kind of like an early draft from like Bob and I working at municipalities. From a municipal standpoint, this is kind of how we're looking at our data. Now, the presentations today, the first presentation with Adam, that's basically that kind of that brownish goldish line in the middle, distribution of utility data. And we're just kind of glazing over that here. And we can see that, what Adam had to show us is kind of that middle section of, distribution of it so that it can get to the field. And what Ben had just showed is kind of the bottom part, and then right at the end of the top on the red of as-built, getting your as-built data, getting that approved and getting it accurate and getting it into the database. So this flow chart was made to kind of, ultimately you're not going to be able to get everything that group 2 and group 1 have to work together to map on a single piece of paper. There's just no way. The 3 little red ovals at the very top are kind of, the first attempt to show that, when you start designing a utility project, every organization has, certain standards, whether it's AutoCAD, MicroStation, GIS, and you think of like double clicking on that first little red oval at the top, in a second window or a subdirectory that you can drill down into with that information can be stored for best practices. And the same with the inspection checklists and workflows to make sure that your inspectors in the field are, recording the detail and the data that they're supposed to. And then everybody has their standards for, collecting as-built or what your attributes are and how you do that. So we talked about how to go through with this, that we still have some back and forth on. I didn't include the large blue cylinder, which is the so-called, like a data set or a database where people would contribute to. There's, we discuss security a lot in ours and security concerns. And Barb mentioned it in our leadership meeting last Friday. It's almost very doubtful that every utility owner data owner is going to be, throwing their data at us in actual geometry, digital format, so we can keep it in one big database. In my view, is what we saw today, and it's always been that. Ultimately, you'll be sharing different web services. And I do that at Moorhead. I publish a service with all of our traffic signal, power, fiber, and then sanitary storm and our force main and our lift station stuff. I transmit that out in a map service and web service that our utility locating contractor utilizes. And after seeing some of what Ben and Adam were showing, I need to get a screenshot for my presentation in a month, because I've never actually seen what they do out in the field. I need to go with them or have them send me a screenshot so I can use that in the presentation. But our group we met was really good feedback. I learned a lot about the people in the group. I am definitely not the sharpest pencil in the cup that is group 2. There's Adam and Keith and Bob are extremely knowledgeable. I was kind of very impressed with that. Glad to hear that we're all going to work collaboratively on this as a team. But we had talked about even doing, security was utmost, even doing a pilot project with a smaller city in Minnesota, and just kind of work through how would something like this work with a small city, and just kind of step through it and get some data together and go from there. We got a lot of work to do, and time to start it. And I think it was, I think Dean's even said that, ultimately this group, the more we take on, we might need to break into subgroups on some of this. So that's my quick update. Oh, one more thing, but Steve sent out something to the group that Steve had mentioned some reflection on this. At different points of this flow chart, we can also, drill into it deeper and look at anything that could be an impediment or a detractor. Is there, to get from step to step and data sharing and flow in your to project finish, is there, can there be financial withholdings, impediments, problems? Is there some technical holdup that we need to address and help certain organizations out with? And then, security and privacy, are there regulatory issues that can prevent this chart flowing through?
And the liability too, Brad. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your report. Any questions for Brad? Okay, with that, we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Brad. That takes us to outreach, and we have an exciting development. Karen, take it away.
We have a very exciting development. As Brad was saying, some of these projects are getting to be where we might need a little bit of additional help. So Valerie Mendoza, who is on the IR team, but not listed on my slide because the decision was made after I submitted my slides, will be joining the outreach small group. So Valerie has extensive background with event planning, and will be helping me. She'll be facilitating the meetings that we have moving forward. If you want to slip to the next slide. Just for those of you that are new to this piece, what the outreach group is doing is we are looking to get any communication that we can on this project and get it out to all of the facility operators through different means, whether that is articles within industry publications, Facebook groups, LinkedIn, however we can get it out to let people know what's going on so that we can start that broader conversation. We did meet this month. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that we talked a little bit about the different pilot programs that are going on. So it was mentioned that Black Hills Energy, Barb is going to be working with them to have them come talk to this group. We talked about a Center Point project that's going on, PG&E, T2. We also talked about the Minnesota 2050 program. So Brad Henry has sent me some information on that, which has a large number of groups that I'll be adding to the list that as we have different articles published, I'll be sharing them with those publications to try to get a broader reach. So
And
for
just a quick update. Travis is going to work with Black Hills Energy.
oh,
Because
okay,
he knows them very well.
perfect. So then on the next slide, Steve, is kind of what our next steps are going to be. And as I mentioned, Valerie will be leading the group, but we will be staying to work very close together. So we're going to be looking for some different case studies for feature articles. They'll come out of presentations like this, and we can have those published in DP Pro magazine. That's a for sure that I can get it there. And then I will be sending the articles to different industry publications. And then anything that gets published, we'll be watching for those and then post them into different industry groups so we can keep spreading the message on a broader platform. What we're going to be doing within DP Pro, we have our special locate edition, which is a great place, I think, to kick off this project as a whole. So there will be a 2-page spotlight article talking about this group and our initiatives. I've sent a draft copy to Barb and Steve that went out to all of the small group leaders today. They can each submit a paragraph on what their main focus is and what their group is working on. So that will land in early April. And then I'll look to have a feature article in each subsequent issue that relates back and says that this is, this article was born out of this group so that it continues to have that repetitive flow and lets people know what this group is doing. So if anybody has any questions, I am open to them. Otherwise, I wanted to give, 2 minutes or so to Valerie to be able to introduce herself and say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you, Karen. I, again, just want to say that I'm looking forward to working with this group. Karen is a hard act to follow, and I'm glad that we'll be working together. And I just look forward to meeting you and understanding more what your roles are and helping to get the outreach.
And Steve, you are still on mute, but it was nice of you to thank Valerie for that. There you go.
No, it's not true. I was not on mute. I just moved my mouth without saying anything. Valerie, welcome on board. Thank you so much for joining the effort. And Karen, your report. Does anybody have any questions for Karen? And Valerie, actually. Okay, with that, I guess you're off the hook, Karen. All right, we got this Dean Parker guy. I think he's throwing a poor fellow by the name of Alex Smith under the bus. Are you going to do it, Dean?
Oh, we're going to give Alex a shot here.
All right, we like it. So, yeah, typical law office. Throw the guy down the road under the bus. Okay, here we go. Alex.
I appreciate the opportunity to pinch hit for you, Dean. So I don't believe I've had the opportunity to meet everyone in the group, but I'm Alex Smith. I'm an attorney that works with Dean, and I've been assisting with the regulations and security subgroup. So I'll just go ahead and provide a brief update on what our activities have been up to as of late, what our objectives are, and the progress on achieving those objectives. So lately, our preliminary objectives have been to identify existing industry standards and frameworks that address the collection and sharing of GIS attributes, just to get an idea of what's out there, what people are doing, what's been working, what hasn't been working, to sort of, use that as our stepping stone as we try to formulate and decide what regulations, we're going to follow. And then also to connect with industry professionals to gain similar insight into their GIS sharing practices. So our progress thus far is we've done a lot of research to review existing sources that either share GIS data or address the sharing of GIS data. So we reviewed which attributes and information these various sources provide. Other sources provide commentary and guidance on the sharing of GIS data. We have prepared a large document that sort of summarizes the key points and the attributes shared in these various sources. I believe that's on the drive. I'll confirm that after the meeting. But that goes into more depth what each of these sources, what we've gleaned from them. So as you can see, we've looked at the NPMS public map viewer, the PIMA viewer. There's a set of guidance, a white paper from the ASCE that addresses the sharing of utility infrastructure data. Marathon Pipeline Company also has a public viewer on their website. The UK National Underground Asset Registry, which Dean has touched on, I know, and I'll discuss more in a bit here, is a large UK project that has worked to share infrastructure and GIS data. And then there's also some FGDC guidelines for access to GIS data that provided some insight as well. So I'll just shed a little more light on the UK National Underground Asset Registry, as that seems to be one of the more comprehensive models that we've come across in our research. It's a UK government mapping program aiming to reduce the time it takes for dig teams to get reliable underground maps and reduce utility strikes by providing a single source of high quality, accessible view of information. And the specific attributes and information that are included in the new R are available in that document on the drive. But the big takeaways that our group really got from this was keep it simple and make sure that security is a priority amongst all the users. Make the users comfortable with security. Make sure only those that are authorized can have access and that they're only using it for authorized purposes. So, they're really mindful to be aware of that when creating the NUAR viewer. We've also made some progress on making contacts with industry professionals. We've spoken with some professionals with Minnesota Valley Electric. They provided some insight on their sharing practices. They told us that locators at Minnesota Valley they are being furnished with map information, but excavators are not. Minnesota Power, we spoke with them as well. They informed us that the locating is generally done through a contractor. The rest is covered by their own internal crews. That the crews have access to Minnesota Power infrastructure through ArcReader, so they have maps of their own infrastructure. We also spoke with a representative of American Gas Association, exchanging emails with them. They made some general comments with regard to the NPMS viewers, but did not provide much additional insight. So going forward, we're going to continue to analyze the existing authorities that we have identified, determine, which of those practices, seem to be priorities amongst the various sources that we've identified and reviewed. We're going to work with the committee as a whole to determine the feasibility of, the methods we've identified as key security practices and how those can be implemented. And then we're going to continue our efforts to meet with industry professionals to discuss data sharing practices. I'm happy to answer any questions that the group might have, or if Dean would like to add anything.
Is Dean on vacation? Is that why? What's going on there?
He must be.
Okay. All right, Alex, thank you so much for your presentation. Going once, going twice, going three times on questions. Does anybody have anything for Alex? Looks like you guys are making some great progress. I'm very pleased to see that you've been able to work your way through that document from the folks in the United Kingdom. So I think that's a great information poll that we've been able to do. So thank you on that one. All right, with that, we are actually running ahead by, can you believe it, 10 minutes. And to the degree that we have some topics for open discussion, the floor is wide open. But before we go there, I wanted to point out something from a 50,000 foot level. Given the fact we've all wandered into this period here of COVID, and knowing that when the snow melts on the ground in Minnesota, people are headed towards the cabin and all those sorts of outdoor activities. The reality is we've got a very limited window to get things done. Realistically, probably as your group, you've got through April, because once we hit that May time frame and school wraps up, and folks wander into summer vacation, we're probably dead in the water realistically on pushing stuff forward with any real great degree until we get 2 more months in September and October. So please think about that with regard to getting your group together and moving things forward. We've seen some just fabulous progress, but please give consideration to that. And with that, the floor is open. Who's got what? Go ahead.
I have a suggestion. I think we've heard 2 good presentations today. We've got probably more that will come in. I don't know how we could accelerate our outreach. Waiting till April just to talk about your timeline here, because I think with Adam's presentation, how do we get that throughout Minnesota into our facility operators? I know we'll have more work from the folks that Travis is trying to get lined up. But I think we've got an opportunity to really accelerate the PR piece of it. I know that's difficult because we're just at the beginning, but I just throw that out there.
I think that one thing that's helpful is if we can, and I've already emailed Adam about a potential article, Barb. And so great. One of the things is that perhaps both the magazine that we produce and then sharing the articles with the other publications can help bridge those gaps during the time that we might be a little bit busy with other things. So we'll have the special locate issue lands in April, summer issue lands in June, and then we would have our fall issue that lands in early September. So I think if I can get some case studies and different projects written about that can continue back to mentioning the group, we can have some continued PR for the project as when people are not as active in their group meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, one thing that kind of bubbled to the top that I had really forgotten about is that there's a Minnesota government bulletin service that from MinGeo, they're one of the people that can plug into it and distribute it. A gal by the name of Allison Slats up in the Minnesota Geospatial Information Office. I can connect you up and do an introduction, And that may be a way to float stuff inside Minnesota government because, you know, it's the typical, it's called an e-government bulletin or something like that. And they send it out ever so often. So that might be an opportunity also.
That would be great. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at is for that 2050 group that Brad had, is whenever we have anything that's published, to be trying to find the right contact within all of those groups. And then I can happily add Allison to that list of people that would need to get this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Sure. And then Steve, when you do the introduction, if you would include Valerie on it as well.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I also liked the flow charts that the teams put together. The reason I like that is, again, you can put in the some of the critical issues into that, but then you can also build, you know, the best practices tied to that as well, as that flow chart gets more and more built out. So I really appreciate seeing that. So thank you guys for doing that.
Okay. Anything else from the floor?
Yeah, one thing, Steve, Brad, I would like to see your group, and with maybe some people from the, regulations and security subgroup, set a meeting for sometime in February or early March to talk about aspirationally, what are the attributes that you would like to see collected that would be shared with, on the one hand, a locator, either internal or external, and perhaps aspirationally with a trusted excavator. And we know we're a ways away, especially from having this GIS information made available to any excavator. But I think we have to start thinking about what is the information that you would want to see shared. I think that the one takeaway, as Alex mentioned, from the UK project is that the GIS information and attributes that need to be shared, it's a lot more simple and a lot less. Less is more, actually. So figuring out what actually should be shared, I think we need to start talking about that sooner rather than later.
We can do that. We've already touched on that a little bit, haven't we? So very possible, Dean.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else?
Steve, if I could jump in, I'm a guest during your presentation here in your group, and I don't know who my audience is. I'm the elephant in the room. I'm an excavator. Name's Jeff Weiner with Fratellone Companies. I see a couple other individuals that I've had the pleasure to work with in the past 5-6 years. And from an excavator standpoint, I am tickled silly to what I see and what is coming down the line. I hope more of this technology is more readily available sooner than later on Dean's account, that it's not going to be available to excavators. I have another point I want to bring up, not necessarily to this group, but with Common Ground Alliance, that I think we are way behind the times in the utility locating industry and these struggles we go through on a daily basis. And more in particular, I want to try to see a regulation changed from the locating standpoint of, MinOps is hitting it hard of that we have to physically drive to a site and grab a can of paint and mark out corners and things like that. This is all tying in with all the technology that I see. And I think we need to embrace technology and use it to our advantage, because we do that and it is so much better with KMZ files, and the technology you guys have shown is right along the lines that we need as an industry need to step up and try to make a difference and get up with the times in a sense, because using a can of paint is 1970, 1980 technology. And it's not even technology, but it's that method that there's better things out there, and we're way behind. and from a safety standpoint, efficiency standpoint, everything that goes with it. I'm excited to see what you guys are all doing behind the scenes here and what's going to be coming out in the near future. But I would like to try to see things move sooner than later and catch up with things. And I appreciate everyone's time for me being able to join in and listen in on this.
Well, thank you for attending. These meetings are always open to guests, and it's a opportunity to engage if it's something you decide you'd like to do. And we're appreciative of the full spectrum of insight. And thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Can I get an amen, Vinny? You know, Vinny, if you want to be part of group one, I'd love to have an excavator on it.
Yeah, I didn't see who was talking there, but I can definitely get you my contact information, or Barb has that and she can forward it along if she could. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll take care of that, Jeff.
Okay. Anything else? Going on.
Hey, Steve, Brad Henry, real quick, when do you expect these videos to be out on the website?
I try to process stuff as quickly as I can. I would look to see that they're there no later than Monday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we typically turnaround's pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I think this is these two presentations today, I think need to be shared with a much wider audience than we had here today. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for that comment. Appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, so here's, somebody else.
Uh-oh.
I couldn't let us go this early.
Oh,
This is Dean. So just one more point to Anthony's question. MinOps held a white lining discussion. What was it, Barb? A couple of months ago.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, in December there was one.
And I don't know, Anthony, if you attended that, but there were the beginnings of some discussion concerning virtual white lining. And Adam, is Adam Franco still on the line?
I am. I'm here.
Can you talk briefly about what capabilities exist now or are likely to exist shortly concerning the ability of an excavator to upload a map or a plan to a ticket that that can be seen through the system?
Sure, absolutely. There's kind of two layers right now that are currently available. Currently, any user who submits their tickets electronically has the ability to upload an attachment to the ticket, and that attachment can be any additional data that is helpful to facility operators in responding to the ticket. So it could be a drawing of the area or of the specific site. It could be a marked up satellite image. Anything along those lines can be added as a supplement. It is important to keep in mind that there is no mandate that facility operators open those attachments or view those when responding to a ticket, but it is additional information that can be provided. In fact, if you submit your locates via the phone, you can actually go to the ticket link for that ticket, the copy that is sent back to the excavator, and you can add a public attachment at that point as well. It's less likely facility operators are going to see that because that's going to be added after transmission occurs, but that is an option also. The other piece that I mentioned is the newest system that's being used for submitting tickets electronically allows the user to create a very specific and very finite notification polygon. The old days of drawing out a city block for work at a single address have come and passed. Now, selection can be as specific as a radius around a specific object. You might have a 10-foot radius that you've drawn around a tree or a hydrant or a pole. You could draw a route with a specific width on either side of the route as the excavation area. You can select a parcel and specify where on the parcel the work's taking place. So the specificity of the excavation polygons has significantly increased with the introduction of these new softwares.
Adam, I agree with that. And yes, you can input all that stuff into a locate ticket and whatnot. But the truth of the reality is, if you right in the regulation, it states you can use all that, but it also states that that doesn't exclude you from going out with a can of paint and putting paint on it. And for example, can go into this further, and maybe this isn't the platform. I have a solar crew that we do a lot of testing for a lot of solar farms, and I have 3 individuals that travel the United States that when we call in for locates, we have the contact information. They will call my superintendent on it, and we have a KMZ file that's developed by the engineering company or the gals in the office that make a KMZ file of the actual site. The locators are tickled silly when he says, "Oh, you have a KMZ file? Please send that to me." We send that right directly to the locator. The locator can overlay their maps right on top of the Google Earth one. I'm looking at it on my screen right now. That way, that individual knows it's not in place of locates, right? Which to your point earlier, but that locator, which may have a 2-hour drive out somewhere in Arizona, can overlay their maps on it and go, "I'm nowhere near that." And also the points that are on there, we have specific points where we're driving these piles into the ground. When that locator gets on site, let's say they do have a facility in that area, that individual on their phone or their tablet, they can drive right to the exact spot that we're putting that pile in the ground. So that's how much more accurate it is, than drawing a polygon or a paint mark or whatever it may be. It's the same thing. It's just a lot more simpler, easier, more cost effective from a lot of angles. So it has to do with the regulation that, yes, we can use this technology, and we do, but if we don't actually go out there and physically put paint on the ground, technically speaking, we could get fined by MinOps on this, because we're not going out and putting paint on the ground, when the technology with the KMZ file is worlds ahead of paint, I guess is where I'm going with it, and what I'm would like to see things changed in the industry, because technology is the key.
One of the sticking points, or sticky points, I'll call it, of the white markings is the intention of the white marking is communication between the excavator and the locator. And that's meant to protect the areas that buckets are going into the ground. So the problem is the abuse of that. That's where there's heartache, is that there's the abuse of white lining. Instead of going out there and drawing a box or whatever with paint, somebody's going to just draw a box around the whole property and say, "I'm digging on this property." So I totally agree with you. And I know we've talked in the past, but you gotta take into consideration what the white paint is used for, and the abuse of it, because I think everybody, we're all for innovating and going about it, as long as we can make sure everybody's respectful of each other's times, and we can collaborate to make sure everybody's effectively doing their job.
I agree wholeheartedly, Keith.
So Dean, I'm thinking you ought to get in a brawl with Travis for the import of excavation expertise into your group, because I'm hearing regulation.
I'm going to let Travis handle that.
Okay. All right. So are we good to go? Can we call it quits?
I'm good.
All right. So here's what we got on the next screen here. Our next meeting, pencil it into your planner or whatever, February 25th of the new year of 2021, 1 p.m. in the afternoon. you want to make the admin mule happy. We want each person with a registered EPC account because, as you can tell, we're moving forward and there's going to be paperwork flying. You got to be able to log in, and don't do it to me all at once. And the small groups, do one at least one group meeting. So thank you. And that takes us to the last slide, which says the society grows great when old men, make it people in this day and age, plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. That's kind of what we're doing here. So to the degree that we can move things forward for the state of Minnesota and maybe ultimately other states, that'd be a great thing. So thank you all for your time this afternoon. Barb, you got any last sign off?
No, I don't. I thank you, everybody.
Okay. Take care.
Have a good month.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.